Good evening, everyone. Ian Patrick here. And tonight I have for us a nice little quick fix of a short, well, not too short, but not too long romance drama. Tonight's review is of the movie Angel. It came out in 1937 and it was a Paramount film. It was directed by Ernst Lubitsch. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Some people online classify this as a comedy. I don't really see it as a comedy at all. I think it's more of a romance drama picture. Like I said, it's like if it's a Friday night for you all, or if it's a weeknight and you don't have a lot of time to watch a movie, or you're feeling kind of tired, this is a great movie for you to put on. It's a good quick fix of a classic film. It stars Marlene Dietrich, and this was actually her last Paramount film. She had been under contract with Paramount, and it was, I believe, she had been working for Paramount for 7 years, and this was the last one at the end of when her contract ran out. It stars Marlene Dietrich. She plays Lady Maria Barker, or Angel. She gets given the nickname Angel in this movie by Melvyn Douglas, who is also in this. He plays Anthony Halton. And we also have someone who I'm a big fan of, Herbert Marshall, sort of the pathetic lover in a lot of his movies. I feel like he's always in movies where he's getting cheated on in some sort of way, or he's being left. Herbert Marshall plays Sir Frederick Barker, so he plays Marlene Dietrich's husband, Lady Maria Barker's husband, and he is a very wealthy, successful British diplomat who also works at the League of Nations. And notice I named off three people because this is a love triangle picture. Now, getting to the plot of the story, it starts out where Marlene Dietrich, she is in Paris, and we see that she is visiting an old friend who is the Russian Grand Duchess, or so that's the title that she goes by. And I really like how it starts because it shows her walk into this flat in Paris. It's a beautiful house, and the camera is out. You'll remember this scene. The camera is outside of the building, and it goes very slowly across the window panes, so we can see inside the building, see inside the home, and we see all sorts of sort of shady vices going on. We see gambling, we see drinking, we see men and women flirting, possibly prostitutes. We don't really know at this point, but we see a lot of shady stuff going on. But it's a really cool shot. So just note that scene. And it's sort of safe to assume that, and we learn this the more the picture progresses, but that Maria has a shady past. Like, what is she doing at this place? Because in fact, this is where she meets Melvyn Douglas, and in fact, when she meets him, she won't even give her real name to him, and it's kind of odd. And when she sees the Russian Grand Duchess, the Russian Grand Duchess is a little hesitant to meet with her at first because it seems like they're trying to hide what's really going on at this place. But while she's there, she bumps into this man who is Melvyn Douglas's. His name is Anthony, or he goes by Tony. And right away, in my opinion, Tony comes off just way too strong with Maria. He's just like staring at her and just like, it's like, okay, dude, give her a little space. And I know it's a different time, but I don't think it really works with Melvyn Douglas because he's not exactly the most classically good looking guy. He's a charming guy, but he just comes off so strong with Maria. But it works on her. Of course, it works for the sake of the picture. But he comes on so strong. He's a bit creepy, and he's like, "Please agree to meet me tonight for dinner. I'm lonely in the city." And we don't know anything about Maria. We don't know if she's married or anything at this point. But Maria, she agrees, to have dinner with him later that night. And when we cut scene to the dinner, it's kind of cute. They're eating like ice cream out of this, out of an ice cream holder. They're eating ice cream together. And again, Tony is coming off so strongly with her. In fact, he pulls a cheesy line about, since he doesn't know her name, she won't give her name. Then this is another reason why I'm like, is she a prostitute? Uh, he gives her the nickname, you're beautiful like an angel. I'm going to call you Angel. And of course, and I'm kind of like rolling my eyes, but it works on her. She likes it. She's like blushing or whatever. So it's sort of harmless flirting. And after this, they go for a walk through the park in Paris. It's kind of like the movie Midnight in Paris, because with Owen Wilson, it's beautiful walking the streets of Paris at night. And they're in a park, and I think he right away is just like telling her he loves her, and she's feeling it too, and they have a kiss. But this is sort of where it ends, because she leaves him in the park. And it's interesting because I read that, that Marlene Dietrich, this is kind of like little kid stuff. They originally wanted them to kind of hint at the fact that they like slept together, or that it was more than just a little harmless date and walk in the park, if you know what I mean. But because of the times, they had to censor all that stuff, and so they made it sort of more innocent, which I like. I don't need them to have a full out affair to get the picture that they kind of had a little bit of a fling. So it cut scenes. They go their separate ways, we can assume, and it cut scenes then to a lavish, beautiful home in England, in London. And we see Herbert Marshall. He's walking into his home. It's like a palace almost. And he's walking up these grand stairs, and he sees his beautiful wife in his bed, in his chambers, because, they didn't sleep together back then. They had separate beds. And who do you think his wife is? His wife, of course, is Angel. His wife is Maria. Of course, by now we didn't know that her name is Maria. We didn't even know who she was. It was just Angel. But we learned that his wife's name is Maria, and he lets her sleep there. So then he goes to sleep in her bed, which is kind of funny. And she's woken up by the butlers, and the butlers are sort of the comic relief of the film, because they have like an important note to give to Herbert Marshall, or Sir Frederick Barker, an important note about the League of Nations, and they're surprised that it's not him and that it's Maria. But they're reunited. Herbert Marshall, Sir Frederick, and Maria, they're reunited, and right away we kind of get this sense that they're in a monotonous marriage, that it's boring, that Frederick is this great and powerful man, but he's just too busy for his wife. He's too busy to spend time with Maria and give her the love and attention she needs. So Maria, she doesn't even mention this Paris trip to him. So you wonder, like, does he even know that his wife was in Paris? It's kind of scandalous. And so we sense sort of this boring relationship between the two, and they eventually go to the races. I think it was horse races. And Maria, she leaves early because what do you think happens? She sees, they all have binoculars and things like that there. And of course she sees Tony. He's present there. And it's safe to assume that Tony kind of sees her there, or that he's like tracked her down, but in a romantic way. He finds out about her being Sir Frederick's wife. But we learn that Sir Frederick and Tony go back because they were both in the British Army, and that they served together in the Great War, and that they had spent time together. And just for the past few years, I guess, Tony had been living in India, and then before he went to Paris, he had been in India, and then he goes to Paris and meets Sir Frederick's wife. So she leaves the races early, and uh, Tony, being old friends with Frederick, sort of convinces him, hey, we're old buddies. Can I come over and we can have a lunch or something like that? So he comes over, and of course, it's awkward. Maria, she puts on an act like she does. She's never seen him before. That no, I'm not this angel person you're talking about, because Sir Frederick had told the story already to Maria about, oh, this strange man. He told me this crazy story about meeting a woman in Paris and calling her angel and yada yada yada. But she puts on an act that it's not me. I'm not the angel girl. And when they're alone, actually, Tony is like, stop putting on this act, and I love you. Like, we need to be together. Eventually she gives in and she admits, okay, it is me, but you need to go on. And there's a lot of tension in the room, and for some reason Sir Frederick doesn't really catch on at this point, but he's kind of picking up on clues. Note the scene from the lunch when the servers, it's one of the few like funny scenes, bring back the plates of like steak or chicken or whatever it is they were eating, and they look at her plate and Tony's plate, and none of the food has been eaten. However, they look at Sir Frederick's plate and like the whole thing's gone. So it's like, okay, those two are nervous, but Frederick's fine, so the meat has to be fine. So there's tension. And she basically sends him on his way, and he says, look, I'm going to be back in Paris on this day, and if there's a little bit of hope, please tell me that you will meet me there. And she's like, no, I'm not going to. So he leaves heartbroken. But Sir Frederick also had been planning a romantic getaway to basically a place, I can't remember the city, like it's like Hungary, or I don't remember, but they had planned a romantic getaway, like it's gonna be like the old times, just you and me, Maria. And she's so happy. You feel, Marlene Dietrich is really good at just having a range. Like, she can be like the tough girl or the brat. She can be the tough girl like in Golden Earrings, or she can be like this real sweet innocent wife in this movie Angel. And you feel sorry for her, or kind of pathetic, because she like, it's like it means everything to her that she gets to go away with her husband on this weekend trip, but then work butts in the way, and he has to tell her, I'm sorry, my love, I'm just so important, I have to go to this speech or whatever. And she's like, don't even say anything, you do you. And then she walks off, and he feels bad. But then he learns that the plane is you're gonna take the same plane that your wife took to Paris last week or whatever, a few weeks ago or whatever. And he's like, Paris? Maria was in Paris. And then finally he starts connecting the dots. Okay, is my wife really the woman, Angel, who Tony had been with? And so we're getting to the climax of the movie. We're getting to the climax of the movie because she goes to Paris because she feels so neglected, and she wants to see Tony. And she goes to everyone goes to basically the Russian Grand Duchess's place again, where the movie started. And Sir Frederick walks in, and he's nervous because he doesn't know if he's going to find his wife there with another man or not. He goes in, and he sees Maria. He sees his wife. And he's not like yelling at her, freaking out or anything. He's calm. But he's like, look, if I go in that room and I see or if you go in that room and you go with him, then you can basically consider our marriage over. And I believe she does. I can't remember the specifics, but in his mind, the marriage is over. Everything they've built is over. And it's really sad because at this point, I'm like, wow, is in 1937, is she really going to leave her husband for the other man? Because Tony is there as well, obviously. Tony is there. And Maria, Angel, is left alone with Tony. And of course, Tony's happy. And she, what's his name? Sir Frederick basically says that he comes in and he sees them together. And he basically says, look, we can forget all of this. I don't remember the specifics because I watched this a few weeks ago. But he says, I love you. I'm not going to ask anything, but if you still want to go on that trip with me as my wife, I would still love that. And it cut scenes just to Sir Frederick. And this is, I know I always talk about hating quick endings, but this one was one of the best ones I've ever seen. It worked perfectly. Sir Frederick basically puts his hat on, or is walking out the door of the Russian Grand Duchess's place. He's walking out the front door, and out of nowhere, Maria comes up to his side, and they walk out like hand in hand or arm in arm, basically to go on their trip, and their marriage is salvaged, and it's a beautiful ending. It really is. And all that being said, I give this movie a 3.5 stars. I liked it a lot. I really did like it a lot. And the reason I don't give it a perfect stars is, for one thing, it's not like this just perfect, fantastic film that I will always remember perfectly. It's not like Vertigo or anything like that. But there are some flaws with it. For instance, Tony should have been played by a British actor, for one thing, because Melvyn Douglas doesn't even try to put on a British accent. He should have been played by a British actor. He should have been probably played by someone a little bit more attractive, or, more enticing to run away with. Maybe someone like Ray Milland, or maybe he's a little too good looking, but just someone British. I don't think Melvyn Douglas, I like him a lot, but I don't think he fit perfectly for the part of Tony, because he came across as creepy sometimes. Yeah, I think I like him, but he just wasn't sexy enough to leave that rich life in the past for Maria. So 3.5 stars. It was a really good movie. I definitely recommend you all to watch it. And I think you guys will agree with me. There's a lot of good character development in this movie. So here I have a good picture from my Paramount book. A good scene from the movie. You can see Sir Frederick and Maria having sort of an awkward lunch or brunch together. I think that's like the first morning they're back together after she comes back from Paris. Here I have a nice, beautiful photograph of Marlene Dietrich. It says, Marlene Dietrich in spring of 1937 after completing Ernst Lubitsch's Angel. And here I have a nice photo of Herbert Marshall, the pathetic lover. Now, let's see. Now I'll read from my Marlene Dietrich books. Let's see here. In the Lubitsch version, Sir Frederick philanders only with... Let me see if I'm finding the right part. Sorry. Basically, this book talks about how Marlene Dietrich wasn't happy with the movie at all because she felt like she also felt that Melvyn Douglas was not cast well. Angel is all foreplay and no release. This is what this is what the author of this book thinks. He says Angel, and I don't agree with him. Angel is all foreplay and no release. What makes it so tantalizing to scholar critics is they don't know how to explain that so exquisitely subtle an artifact it is can also be so dull. Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. Lubitsch's troubles with Marlene were minor compared to those presented by Paramount and the Code. Paramount had no idea how to handle what looked like blatantly subtly and prepared full-page ads that pointed out Marlene's simple gown with gold beads, pearls, diamonds, rubies, and sable. Bold-faced type asked, "What does Angel do?" and answered the question with, "She dares to love two men at the same time." So that's, going back to the whole two men issues. And here is a photo, another photo from the movie. You can see that, let me see, her two men pulling at her, and she's in that beautiful gown. I think that's everything I have for the movie. I wasn't able to find all my history in there. I know I had marked it a few weeks ago, but yeah, the main history was that Marlene Dietrich, she really wasn't happy with this picture. She kind of felt like, oh, this is going to be another flop, and I think it was kind of another flop at the time. It was sort of, I guess, forgettable, and in the time she was actually in a slump. So she wasn't happy with Angel, which is kind of sad because I actually like the movie a lot. But let me know what you all think of this movie, and I will catch you in the next review.